Hi, I'm Izuku Midoriya, and I'm the #1 hero. And this is the story of how I found out I'm an Uchiha.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Neon Pow here, and this week we're doing part 7 to What If Deku Was an Uchiha. That meaning you have not seen the previous parts. I have that playlist linked in the description and in the card above, so make sure to check that out so you won't be confused. Also guys, since this is the last episode of the My Hero Season 4, before I move over to Naruto, we're going to be doing 200 likes for you beasts to hit on this like goal. So let's see what you guys can do. Also, 85% of the people watching my videos are not subscribed. So if you haven't done so, make sure to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell to stay up to date to all the juicy what ifs coming to you. So without further ado, let's go ahead and hop into the video. We last left off with Deku Uchiha arriving at Sir Night-Eye's hero headquarters in hopes of gaining his permission to intern with him. Deku and Night-Eye are currently in the midst of a fierce test. It has finally come down to Deku revealing his infamous Sharingan in hopes to counter Night-Eye's foresight. With only 60 seconds left on the clock, Deku has no time to waste. He maxes out his 20% one for all, which in turn enhances his already potent Sharingan. Deku charges in such a quick and sporadic manner that Sir Night-Eye sees white. Nothing is appearing in his foresight. Since his foresight has just been nullified, Night-Eye uses his intuitions. He knows Deku will be charging for his stamp, so he tosses it at the last second. With only 5 seconds left on the clock, he assumed this would buy him enough time for Deku to fumble and fail. However, to his surprise, Deku is at the location to where he threw the stamp and catches it with just 1 second left on the test. Sir Night-Eye is stunned that Deku not only surpassed his foresight, but also predicted his very own movements with his visual prowess. Deku, once he lands on the ground, powers down and collapses to one knee as the overexertion of power depleted the kid's stamina. Mirio and Bubble Girl, in perfect timing, enter the room and congratulate Deku on succeeding in the test, as it seemed they already knew the outcome of it. Sir Night-Eye walks to Deku and reaches out to help him up and give him the intern paper. However, before he lets Deku stamp, he tells him that he truly did exceed his expectations, but also mentions that Deku ought to be careful with his Sharingan, as he noticed his emotions were becoming cloudy towards the end. He also promises to make sure to keep his secret between them for now. Deku promises to be careful, and with that, he finally officially joins the Night-Eye agency. After everyone leaves, Sir Night-Eye requests that Deku tell him all there is about his Sharingan core, so will he be able to adjust his plans accordingly to his immense power. We now jump to the first day of Deku's internship. He will be accompanying Mirio on a scouting mission of an organized crime syndicate known as the Shii Hasakai, run by Chizaki, aka Overhaul. Deku is currently calculating the best way to obtain crucial intel. However, to Mirio, it looks like Deku is rambling and overthinking the situation. Mirio reassures Deku that Sir and Bubble are the ones following the target, and that they are just patrolling. Deku has mixed feelings about this, as he wanted to be in the action, but is glad that he can learn some tricks from Mirio. He will still have his attack plan ready just in case. As the two are patrolling, Deku is randomly bumped into a frightened white-haired girl. As Deku looks up, he sees the target they are after is standing before him. Deku is still startled by the encounter, but in this story, he has his face covering on since he is constantly cautious and hiding his Sharingan. Mirio, like in canon, is trying to mediate the situation. Deku, who is in a dazed state, finally comes to once he feels little Eri grab a hold of him. As much as Deku hates it, he realizes that he is not strong enough or in the right situation to save the frightened young girl from the menacing guardian. However, Deku does make use of the situation by going along with his plan. As Mirio is talking, Deku jumps in and makes small talk about parenting. He then makes sure to make eye contact with Overhaul, as he can activate a slight genjutsu. Even though the villain is on guard, he has no way of expecting Deku's unique power. Deku then makes sure to ask if he'll be able to make it home safely. Overhaul then reassures Deku that they are fine and begins telling them the location of their base without realizing it due to the genjutsu. Both Eri and Mirio are shocked by what just happened. However, Deku gives Eri a warm hug and says that they better get going. Eri, understanding this cue, leaves with Overhaul. As Overhaul gets farther away, he looks back to see who those heroes were, as he's having a hard time remembering their outfits for some reason. Unfortunately for him, they are already gone. He is suspicious of the situation, but nothing more than how he was in canon. Deku's Genjutsu was a success. He was able to extract the Yakuza's base's location and hide their identity. As the two are walking away, Mirio asks Deku if what they heard about the location was just a lie. Deku reassures Mirio that the info they heard was real, and that they need to tell Sir immediately. Once they meet up with Sir, Deku relays all the intel he was able to gather. Night Eye asks how he can be sure about the intel, and Deku just says he has a hunch and gives off a certain glare that tells Night Eye all he needs to know. Sir tells Deku great work as he is shaping to fit his expectations. What the location of the Yakuza base revealed much earlier, the meeting and organization with the other pro hero begins much sooner. However, it still occurs after Deku learns about All Might's predicted death and the showcase of Quirk eliminating bullets. The day of the Hasaikai raid arrives. All the heroes are ready to burst in and save Eri, especially Mirio and Deku. As in canon, the Yakuza are retaliating and the search for Eri goes the same. Sun Eater and Red Riot still both volunteer to break from the main group and hold back the oncoming villains. Mirio, because of his permeability, goes on ahead to catch up to Overhaul and Eri and begins fighting, while Deku and the others end up facing the League of Villains. As everything plays out, Deku still arrives on the main battlefield late. Mirio has been able to keep Eri safe, and he knocked Overhaul a few pegs down, but all that was at the cost of his quirk. Sir is left to fight Overhaul and buy some time as Deku is instructed to help Mirio get Eri to safety. Seeing his comrade Mirio in tatters and quirkless really begins playing with Deku's emotions. He isn't even able to assist with the fight against Overhaul as he believes he would be in the way. All the confidence he has gained in his skills are slowly deteriorating as he begins blaming himself for being so weak that he couldn't get to the battlefield in time to assist in Eri's rescue. The emotional turmoil that is being transcended by his Uchiha blood is beginning to boil. He of course tries to brush it off as he needs to focus on Eri and Mirio. However, as they are moving away from the battlefield, Deku hears a scream and the sound of blood gushing out. He then quickly turns around and sees his mentor impaled by Overhaul. Deku is just standing still, feeling like he can't do anything, being ignored. Before he knows it, Overhaul is aiming new spikes towards Mirio and Eri, yelling he can just rebuild her if she gets a bit tattered. This sight, combined with the overwhelming feeling of uselessness, releases Deku's rage in a heated explosion. He has snapped. This emotional turmoil has made him surpass his limits to unbelievable heights. He was able to push to 30% of One For All, giving him the strength and speed needed to save Eri and Mirio from the spikes. However, this increase in One For All doesn't seem like the only change Deku has gone through. Deku's eyes look to have made a drastic change. He turns to Overhaul with a glare of death and charges at him in a flash. Overhaul laughs at such a feeble and straightforward attack and shoots out his spikes forward. However, to his surprise, similar to Mirio's permeability quirk, Deku goes right through the spikes and makes solid contact with Overhaul's face, knocking him back, smashing him into the wall. Based on the overwhelming majority that the community voted on, from the emotional turmoil, Deku has now unlocked his Mangekyo Sharingan with Kamui abilities. As Deku is attempting to control his rage to his best ability, he yells at Mirio to get Eri out of here. However, Overhaul has used this time to combine his body with his fallen henchman. Deku, now completely fed up with the villain, charges at him. Deku goes through every single attack that is thrown at him and begins landing blows on Overhaul. Overhaul is getting unpleasant flashbacks to the fight against Mirio. Deku is not giving Overhaul a second to breathe, completely demolishing him blow for blow, kick for kick. Unfortunately for Deku, after a few constant hits, his rage and lack of composure is making him sloppy. Overhaul is eventually able to predict Deku's line of movement and dodge, giving him enough time to shoot Eri and himself into the air. Fortunately, reinforcement comes in, causing Overhaul to stumble in his escape. Seeing familiar faces and watching Eri get further away from him with the villain brings Deku back to his senses. This also causes Deku to realize that his eyesight is beginning to worsen for some reason. With the reinforcements arriving and watching Deku risk so much to save her, Eri sees that this is her cue to make a difference. She jumps off towards Deku, and he is able to grab her. Unfortunately, once they land, Deku has lost almost all sight in his eyes, and his body is starting to feel the massive effects of using One For All at 30%. Overhaul, seeing this opportunity, shoots out an attack to skewer Deku. Eri, tired of sitting on the sidelines, aims to make a difference. She activates her quirk, and Deku begins to feel the healing effects of her reversal quirk. Not only is his stamina and injuries going away, but his vision is returning as well. This gives Deku the boost he needed, and he activates 100% of One For All subconsciously, further increasing the power of his Mangekyo. His Kamui has been upgraded to now allow those that he touches to also become permeable. Both him and Eri are able to phase through Overall's attack. Deku feels like he has an idea of how Eri's quirk works now and knows that he needs to finish this battle quickly. He looks to Overall and basically teleports to him, smashing him into the air. Then, with a flurry of punches that he called Uchiha Smash, Overhaul is shot down to the ground, knocking him out. As Deku lands with Eri, he is breathing hard but doesn't look to be injured in the slightest. However, Eri's increased potency in her quirk is beginning to take a toll on Deku. Before a Razor Head can come to and stop Eri, Deku's Mangekyo Sharingan is reverted to just a normal Sharingan once again. Deku doesn't realize it yet, but this will be a huge cost to his battle power. At this moment, he is just relieved that they were able to save Eri from the tyrant. After the battle begins to wind down, everyone gets checked up. Unfortunately, it looks like Sir Naide's injuries were too far severe to heal. However, before passing away, he's able to see that the future will be full of strong and bright capable heroes that can change perceived outcomes. Mirio is still left quirkless, but his unwavering spirit is held intact. From then, the remaining events of Season 4 occur as normal. The revisional license exam, school festival, the fight against Gentle Criminal, and announcement of Endeavor being the #1 hero all goes unchanged. The big change here is that Deku practices mastering 30% of One For All. He also comes to the realization that he no longer has access to the permeability power from his battle with Overhaul. He doesn't know if he'll ever get it back, but until he figures out what his power was, he feels it is best for it to be locked away. He can't risk losing his vision permanently for such power. And that's where we're ending this episode. Now guys, I hope you enjoyed the end of the My Hero Academia Season 4 What If Saga. And since Season 5 is still in the works, it will take some time to continue this story. So I'll be continuing the What If Naruto series from here on out. So stay tuned to that. Now guys, without further ado, much love, Neon out.